Good afternoon and welcome to the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary. For our final nomination of the day, we will be taking up the nomination of the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for District Court. But I'm going to have committee members introduce themselves since many of you were not here with us in the morning when we did that. And I'm going to begin with those participating remotely, and I will call upon them in the order that they appear on the big TV screen. Representative Babbage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Christopher Babbage. I'm in my 6th term in the legislature, my 3rd on this prestigious committee, which I'm very proud of. And I represent House District 8, which is most of the town of Kennebunk.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Galgay-Reckitt.
Good afternoon. My name is Lois Reckitt, and I represent District 31, which is the ocean end of South Portland.
Thank you. Representative Poirier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Jennifer Poirier. I represent House District 107, which is all of Skowhegan and part of Madison.
Thank you. Representative Thorne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pardon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jim Thorne. I represent House District 103, which are the towns of Carmel, Herman, and a portion of Etna up in beautiful Penobscot County.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Newell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rena Newell, and I serve as the Passamaquoddy Tribal Representative.
Thank you. Representative Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Steve Moriarty. I represent my hometown of Cumberland and part of Gray. Together, they make up House District 45.
Thank you. And Senate Co-Chair Carney.
Thank you. I'm Ann Carney. I represent Senate District 29, which includes South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, where I live, and a little bit of Scarborough.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Harnett. I serve as the House Chair. I represent House District 83, which includes the town of Farmingdale and the city of Gardner, where I reside. So we will open our public hearing. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for appointment as a district court judge. Today's meeting is being conducted using a hybrid format. Under the law and joint rules of the legislature, this committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by majority vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, Senator Carney and I will then send written notice of the committee's recommendations to the President of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have the opportunity to question the governor's representatives, the nominee, and all other persons present who wish to speak for or against the nomination. Before we get started, I want to share some information related to the fact that this meeting is being conducted using a hybrid format. This meeting is currently being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel. This means that anyone who is participating via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. People testifying via Zoom cannot be seen or heard until they are called upon to speak. The meeting will be recorded and available to view on the committee's YouTube channel shortly after we finish our work for the day. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statutes, which requires that there be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes Representative Poirier for the purpose of making such a motion.
I move that the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary recommend confirmation of the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for appointment as District Court Judge.
Thank you, Representative Poirier. Do I have a second? Seconded by Senator Carney. The statutory requirements for this position are posted on the committee's webpage. At this point, I'm happy to recognize the Governor's Counsel Jerry Reed for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Jerry Reed. I'm counsel to Governor Mills, and it's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to ask for your support for the governor's nomination of Amy Faircloth for appointment as judge of the Maine District Court. Amy Faircloth began her impressive legal career with several clerkships, including in the superior courts of both Alaska and Maine. She then joined a respected Bangor firm where she practiced for 7 years in the areas of family law, criminal law, insurance defense, and estate planning. In 1995, she co-founded her own firm in Bangor, focused on civil litigation with a particular focus on family law, where she worked for 24 years. During that period, she also served for 3 years as the Penobscot Nation's child support enforcement attorney in tribal court. In 2019, she accepted a position as a full-time professor of legal studies at Hopson University, while at the same time becoming Penobscot County's probate court judge. She's a graduate of Claremont McKenna College with a degree in American Studies and earned her JD from the University of California's Hastings College of Law. Amy Faircloth's career represents ideal preparation for a position on the district court. She has decades of trial court experience, including in criminal law and particularly in family law, the subjects that are at the heart of the district court's jurisdiction. She has also served for 3 years as county judge of probate, introducing her to the judicial role and the unique challenges that come with it. She's a highly regarded member of the Bangor Bar who has the trust and confidence of the legal community. On behalf of the governor, I respectfully request your support for the nomination of Amy Faircloth as judge of the Maine District Court, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have of me.
Thank you, Counsel Reed. Are there any questions from committee members for the governor's counsel, Jerry Reed? Not seeing any. Thank you very much for bringing this nomination forward and for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I will next recognize John Hopson, the chair of the Judicial Selection Committee.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much.
Mr. Hopson.
Thank you very much, Representative Harnett, Senator Carney, members of the Joint Standing Committee on the Judiciary. My name is John Hopson. I'm chair of Governor Mills's Judicial Selection Committee. On behalf of the committee, I request this committee support the nomination of Amy Faircloth to the Maine District Court. The list of accomplishments that Mr. Reed related to the committee have already been set forth before you. What is a little harder to set forth before you, but for you to understand, is the reputation that Ms. Faircloth enjoys in the Bangor Bar and the Bangor community. She certainly has the extensive experience in the subject matters that most of the subject matters the district court deals with. And she's done that over the many years with this really the support of the entire Bangor Bar. It's unusual when you get a nominee who has the support of all spectrums of the practice. And that's true for Amy Faircloth for the Bangor and northern environments. Also, kind of as a testament to that, she's what currently exists as one of the few elected judges positions in this state. And as Mr. Reed said, she's already been introduced to the judicial world. Now, it's not the Maine District Court, but it has many of the same aspects. And one aspect of her performance as a probate court judge that I think really does relate is that among the practitioners of that court is she's really speeded things up. She's really been able to make that court more efficient and really been someone who's been able to bring some efficiency to the docket. Those attributes are always welcome, in fact, important in terms of a district court judge. She's had the preparation for, gotten the support and really admiration of her peers, and has shown through experience in a different court, but certainly a court of significant jurisdiction, that she has the ability to make decisions and have the docket move. She will be someone who will be a tremendous asset to the Maine District Court and will serve the citizens of the state of Maine of her regions well. So on behalf of the committee, I request that this committee support her nomination. Of course, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hopson, and thank you for the work that you do with the Judicial Selection Committee. Are there questions from committee members for John Hopson? I am not seeing any. Again, thank you very much for bringing this matter forward. I will now recognize the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth to welcome her to the Judiciary Committee and recognize you for the purpose of making a statement concerning this nomination. Welcome.
Thank you. Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, members of the Judiciary Committee. I'm honored and humbled to have been nominated by the governor to be seated as a Maine District Court judge. I thank the governor for her confidence in me, and I thank you, attorneys Hopson and Reed, for your kind introductions. I'm honored to appear before this committee seeking confirmation as Maine District Court judge. But first, I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your service to the people of Maine. My name is Amy Faircloth. I've lived in Bangor with a brief stint in Hamden since 1987. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and raised on Long Island. My father was a certified public accountant and taught accounting at City College. I loved nothing more than to help him grade exams with a red pencil. He always thought I would be a judge, and I'm sorry that he is not with us today, having passed in 2015. My mother was a registered nurse with all the attributes of that profession: nurturing, caring, and very sensible. I have two siblings. One brother and his family live in North Carolina. My sister has recently moved to Bangor with our mother, who has dementia. I cannot thank my sister enough, and she's with me here today, one of my support sisters. I'm the mother of Brendan, who's 30, and Ryan, who's 28. Brendan lives in Bangor with his partner, Allison, and my granddaughters, Mariah and Caitlin, ages 9 and 8, to whom I am Mimi. Ryan has his master's in clinical psychology, which he recently received from the University of London. He lives in England, working on construction of an underground high-speed train from London north. I graduated from Claremont McKenna College in Claremont, California, with a degree in American Studies, and received my law degree from the University of California, Hastings College of the Law in San Francisco. It was at Hastings that I began to think about the type of lawyer I wanted to be. Much to my surprise, I discovered I liked litigation. My favorite classes were mock trial and civil litigation, as well as constitutional criminal issues. I clerked for the California Court of Appeal and found myself fascinated by the trial process as I read transcripts of the trials being challenged on appeal. I began to then see myself as a litigator. Then I volunteered at the Tenderloin Housing Clinic. Hastings is located in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco, home to a large population of folks who are homeless and living in extreme poverty. There are numerous nonprofit social service agencies in that district, such as soup kitchens, rescue missions, and homeless shelters. The Tenderloin Housing Clinic offered important social services to that neighborhood and still does, recently acknowledging its 40th year anniversary. I worked to help get and keep people housed. As a law student, my job was to interview and do initial intakes. This introduction to people who literally lived on the streets convinced me that I wanted to help people who were otherwise marginalized. Soon thereafter, I worked for Alaska Legal Services, which, just as an aside, as you know, I was here during Mr. Robinson's presentation. Who would have thought you would have heard Alaska mentioned in both of our presentations? Anyway, I worked for Alaska Legal Services in the small native village of Bethel in Southwest Alaska. I met with Yupik tribal members regarding multiple civil issues, including family matters, social security, estate planning, and welfare benefits. My first experience with a general private practice was in Fairbanks, Alaska. This experience with a solo practitioner convinced me that this is what I wanted to do. He did it all: divorces, adoptions, wills, criminal matters, car accidents. I typed for him, met with clients, drafted pleadings, and went to court. Every day was different. Every day I got to talk to people, and every day I was helping people. After graduating from law school, I took a job working at the trial court in Kenai, Alaska, which is a beautiful peninsula south of Anchorage. I served as the presiding judge's law clerk, helping to keep track of his calendar, writing memoranda summarizing upcoming trials and arguments, and drafting proposed orders. Alaska is a beautiful state. I just didn't want to live there on a permanent basis. I wanted to be closer to my family here on the East Coast. So in November 1986, I interviewed with Judge Brody just down the road right here in Augusta, the old courthouse. I had never been to Maine before, legit. I had never been to Maine before I interviewed with Judge Brody. Those of you that know Judge Brody, he was inspirational and very persuasive. Maine, even late in the day in November, was beautiful. So he offered me a job. He offered me the job as a law clerk for the Maine Superior Court, either in Kennebec County or Penobscot County. We visited both courthouses and fell in love with the mural in the Penobscot County Courthouse building. Okay, so that was our decision. Penobscot County, it would be. Funny how we make decisions in life. For several months before I started working for the court system, which I did, I had the privilege of working for George Singal, Lou Kornreich, and Jules Mogul. I would not have asked for a better introduction to the Bangor legal community. After serving a year as the law clerk for the Penobscot County Superior Court, I began work as an associate for Vafiatis, Furness, and Kaminsky. Once again, you could not ask for better role models. Attorney Louis Vafiatis was the lawyer's lawyer. He was the ultimate gentleman, known not only for his legal skill, but for his collegiality with the bar and with the bench. Attorney Marvin Glazier was the people's lawyer. He turned no one away. In other times, Marvin would have been the lawyer who accepted pay in chickens. His clients loved him. The adverse parties loved him. Attorney Susan Kaminsky helped pave my way, and many like me, as a woman attorney in Maine. I'm forever grateful to all of them. My legal goals were being met. I was trying cases and I was helping people. It's difficult to summarize my practice with them. I worked there for 7 years doing all types of cases, including criminal misdemeanors and felonies, divorce, insurance defense work, plaintiff personal injury cases, medical malpractice defense, child protective matters, and administrative hearings for child support and driver's license revocations. I appeared in the multiple courts around the state, mainly Augusta North. I wrote and argued appeals to the law court. I was utilizing my legal education and skills to meet with people and help solve problems. In 1995, Dawn Pelletier and I partnered up and started Pelletier and Faircloth. We were a general private litigation firm. Criminal matters, workers' compensation, personal injury cases, insurance defense, and family matters. As my reputation grew, I began to focus primarily on family matters. I served as guardian ad litem in cases, and I contracted with Penobscot Nation as their child support enforcement attorney for several years. Audrey Bracchio later joined our firm as an associate, and then in 2016, we formed the partnership Pelletier, Faircloth, and Bracchio. So for 25 years, I spent my days working with individuals to solve problems and appearing in district courts, probate courts, and tribal courts. I have been so fortunate to have had a career doing something I love to do with people I like to be with and helping people through difficult emotional and financial times. My partnership with Dawn changed my life for the better. Not only was she my partner, but she was and continues to be my mentor, my sounding board, and my friend. Thank you. It's not easy to run a business, take care of my clients, and raise my sons at the same time, but I would not change a thing. I think that part of my success as a family lawyer was that my clients could relate to me and me to them. I too learned to co-parent as in the best interests of my children, and I would like to thank Sean for parenting with me. I too have learned to advocate for my son who is on the autism spectrum. As an example, there's an insurance program through Maine Care called Katie Beckett. That program provides medical coverage to eligible children with special needs, regardless of the income of their parents. No medical care provider had ever told us about this program. Instead, I learned about it from other parents. I struggled, along with many other parents, to figure out what would be best for our son. Now, I'm so proud of both my sons and the men they have come to be. I am proud of the work I did as a private practitioner, and I am proud of who I am today. Where I am today would not be complete without talking about the Bangor Humane Society and the school board of RSU 22. After representing the Humane Society in a probate matter, I joined the board. My more than 10-year commitment to the Humane Society included volunteering Saturdays as an adoption counselor, fostering wayward dogs, serving on its executive committee, and ultimately as its president. In 2011, I ran for my local school board. Now, I have no doubt that local school systems intend the best for our children, but it's important for parents to advocate for their child. It took me many years to find my voice on behalf of my son. I felt marginalized and an unimportant member of my son's education team. As a result of that experience, I ran for school board to draw attention to special education services and to help set policy for parents who found themselves in similar situations. I served on the school board for 3 years, resigning only as I moved back to Bangor from Hampton. In 2018, I was elected probate judge for Penobscot County. Soon after, I accepted a position at Hopson University in the Legal Studies Department and retired from Pelletier, Faircloth, and Braccio. I thus began my career as a part-time probate judge and an assistant professor at Hopson, teaching a full load of classes each semester. Before I talk about my experience as probate judge, I would like to address my students who may be viewing this confirmation hearing on YouTube. Now, for you folks to know, I did not require them to view this confirmation hearing, but I believe some of them may be watching. And to you, my students, it has been one of the joys of my life to have shared my knowledge of the law with you and to have learned from you. If I'm lucky enough to be confirmed, I will miss you all terribly. I'm gonna cry, but I will look forward to seeing you appear in front of me as lawyers, legal assistants, and law enforcement officers. And when things get complicated, remember to take it slow and break it down. It has been an honor to serve the people of Penobscot County as probate judge. I am delighted at this opportunity to continue as a judge full-time for the state of Maine. I find great satisfaction being probate judge. Probate courts in Maine hear matters of critical importance. We hear cases involving the care and welfare of children, as well as the care and welfare of adults who lack decision-making capability. On any one day in court, I will be talking to an 18-year-old with developmental disabilities, a 13-year-old whose parents have both passed, a 90-year-old who only wants to drive his car again, and adult siblings who are fighting over the family home. On any of those days, I seek to fashion an order in accordance with law and that protects the individual as well as constitutional due process rights. I work extensively with pro se litigants, educating them on the law, seeking a resolution that works, and making decisions that enable them to move forward in their lives. I would have a lot to learn as a district court judge, and I understand it would be a great challenge. The district court jurisdiction is broader than that of probate court, and the cases come at you fast and furious. I'm humbled by the road ahead of me. I am excited about that challenge. I look forward to the opportunity to work with the jurists, staff, and lawyers throughout the state. I was led to litigation so that I could help people. I believe I can be of service to the people of Maine in this new role as district court judge, and I respectfully request that you confirm my nomination. And I'd be very pleased to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carney. Thank you, Judge Faircloth. Thank you for your service to the state, and congratulations on this nomination.
Thank you.
Are there questions from committee members? Representative Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome Judge Faircloth. Congratulations on your nomination for District Court Judge. And to say that you have an impressive and extensive background and experience would be the understatement of the day. And I had to share with you that Anchorage, Alaska was my first assignment at 18 years old in the Air Force. So I got to experience Alaska in all its beauty and glory for a few years, from the Iditarod dog sled race to Mount McKinley, and actually did get a chance to go up to Fairbanks, and quite the beautiful country. My question for you is, I know, and you've addressed it, but 99%, I believe is what I read, were civil cases that you have gone before you. And I guess I would just be interested in knowing a little bit about how your approach to more criminal matters and how that would, you believe that would vary.
When I answered that question on my application, which I believe is what you're referring to, and thank you for that question, I'm not sure that I was thinking about my whole overarching career, because certainly my overarching career would include a lot more criminal cases than that. More recently, since 2000, I don't think I've done a criminal case since 2000. Prior to that, though, I did have some extensive experience in criminal matters. Some of them I mentioned in my application. I certainly worked with Attorney Glazier frequently on motions to suppress and misdemeanor trials. And then with Attorney Vafiatis, we had several highly visible cases, criminal cases that I would be preparing along with him and doing jury trials. So the 99% does not include my overarching percentage, if you will, of criminal versus civil cases. And in terms of where I am today with respect to my knowledge of criminal matters, I just want to take myself back to my start as probate judge when Title 18A was in effect. And 9 months later, Title 18C became in effect. So I had to learn the two different statutory schemes. And so I buckled down, and that's what I did. And that's what I would do with respect to the criminal matters as well, is review Title 17A. And my colleagues on the bench and in the bar have generally been very helpful to me if I have any questions about anything. And as probate judge, I frequently talk to other probate judges as well as district court judges when I'm running into something where I have a question about. So I anticipate that that's what I would do in the criminal field as well.
Thank you. And on behalf of the Penobscot County Legislative Delegation, thank you for your past service in the probate courts, and congratulations on your nomination and best of luck. And I know Representative Hagan, who is an educator in Hamden, will be sorry that he missed your nomination process confirmation, but on behalf of him and the entire delegation, congratulations and best of luck on your pending confirmation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Thorne. Representative Galgay-Reckitt.
I have a welcome, Judge Faircloth, and I have a sort of a puzzling question to ask you. Not about your own practice of law, but what you believe, a circumstance I want you to analyze for me. Can you think of one or more circumstances in which you might, in a divorce case, alleviate the responsibility of child support from a father who has 3 children and has left them and the mother to fend for herself? Is there any circumstances you can figure out where that might be appropriate?
Thank you for that question, Representative Reckett. As you are probably aware, the child support guidelines in Maine provide for various kinds and types of deviations. This sounds like one of the questions that I would ask my students in my family law class is how would they handle this situation? And what they would probably say to me is, it depends. Those kinds of questions are very fact specific. You've given me some facts here. You've told me that the father is of 3 children. You've told me that he has left the family and that the mother is able to support herself, I assume, and the 3 children. Those would be factors that that's what I thought I heard you say. If those were the factors.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
No, that is what I said, but that doesn't happen to be the facts, but that's what I did say. So feel free to continue to respond.
So those are factors that I would take into account and would match to the law as indicated in the child support guidelines, but certainly would consider what would be fair and what would take care of the children. I understand the state's priority is to make sure that our children are financially taken care of. So that certainly would play a large part in my consideration.
Thank you. Could I ask one more question?
Yes, you may.
Chairman?
Yes, you may.
Is it possible that your experience as a GAL would color your work in this arena of family law?
I believe that, I'm sorry?
Or inform your work. Sorry, inform your work, not color your work.
I believe that all of my past experiences color the way that I would approach any of the cases in front of me. Certainly, I have done a lot of guardian ad litem work. I certainly have focused my attention as guardian ad litem on the children's best interest. And ultimately, that is what I will look out for, all within the constraints of the law, though, of what statutory and precedential law require me to be. So the short answer is yes, I believe that my role as guardian ad litem in the past would certainly inform how I act as a judge. Yes.
One last quick thing. Please give your husband my regards. I haven't seen him in a long time.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Reckett. Representative Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Judge Faircloth, I have this compelling need to ask you whether your students refer to you as Your Honor.
Yes, so thank you for that question. When I first started teaching, so I'm completing my 3rd year there, that question was asked of me a lot. And so my response would be, I'm here at Hopson, you can call me Professor Faircloth. If I ever see you in court, though, you need to call me Judge Faircloth and Your Honor.
Tell us just a bit about your academic career. What courses do you tend to focus on? Is there a clinical practice involved as well?
What do I teach?
Yes.
Yeah, so I am lucky enough to teach a broad range of classes, and there's 8 of them that I teach. I won't necessarily list all of them. I teach Intro to Legal Studies, where I get to talk to them about the various substantive issues of law, so tort law, property law, probate law, get to talk to them about that. And what I love to do the most in that class is bring in real life situations. And we'll say, look, here, hey, I don't know if you remember, there was the person that sawed a garage in half in Piscataquis County. So here we've got Scottsbluff County case that sort of was infamous, if you will, talking about tort law and property law. So I'd love to bring that kind of information in. So there's Intro to Legal Studies. I teach 2 legal writing classes, which has been instrumental in helping me hone my writing skills. Many of you probably know that you learn best by teaching somebody else something, and that has actually been the case for me as well. Right now, I'm teaching constitutional law, and they are learning about the 5th and 6th Amendments. So talking about the rights of defendants. I've been so lucky to be able to teach just a broad range. I do teach probate law as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moriarty. Representative Babbage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Judge Faircloth. It's wonderful to see you again, and especially on such a momentous occasion. Thank you for offering such detail in your application and in your opening statement. I was impressed that you served on the school board. That seems to be a more challenging assignment as time evolves here. Really what I was interested in, you had various experiences in Alaska, and you also worked with the tribal court here in Maine. I wondered if one influenced the other, and could you just elaborate a little bit about your experience with the tribal court?
Yes, I very much enjoyed practicing law at the Penobscot Nation Tribal Court. I think that they are wonderfully efficient and also wonderfully informal, so that things can get done, obviously within the rules of law. But it has been it's been a very pleasurable experience to practice law in tribal court in the Penobscot Nation. I mainly did 2 types of work in tribal court. First was as the lawyer for child support enforcement, and second, later on, I was guardian ad litem in a lot of cases. Judge Maynard would appoint me as guardian ad litem in many cases. And so not only did I get to know the court system, but I got to know tribal members as I was guardian ad litem for children on Indian Island. And it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your service. I thought the Chief Justice, former Chief Justice, might have had it right by going from the bench to academia, but good luck to you.
Thank you.
in this momentous transition in your life, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Babbage. Thank you for your responses. Are there additional questions from committee members? I do have a few,
Yes.
and it has to do with some of the answers that you provided on many forms that you had to fill out.
There are a lot of forms.
You gave a very thoughtful response, I thought, to the question how the system of justice in Maine can be improved. And you focused on what you perceive to be an imbalance in power in the civil arena, because some people are represented, some are not. Could you elaborate on that a bit and ways that you think we might be able to correct that imbalance?
Yes, and you'll note that I addressed that only after acknowledging that the imbalance of power in the criminal system is frequently discussed. So by talking about the civil system, I am not ignoring that imbalance that may occur in the criminal system. But so thank you just with that. Okay, so my experience in the civil system and its imbalances are that lawyers serve a really valuable purpose. And I can name you, I could tell you lawyer jokes, and I'm sure you all have some of your favorite lawyer jokes, but lawyers generally provide a really good service. I like lawyers. I've always liked lawyers. I like them as friends. I like them as advocates. And their purpose is to make sure people know the rules. Each of these systems have rules. And if you don't know the rules of the game that you're playing, you're pretty much not going to win. So that's what lawyers do. And in cases such as private family matter disputes, you don't always have, everybody doesn't always know the same rules because lawyers are not involved in for each side. So that has always been a concern of mine. I appreciate that you need to balance out the resources that are available. I'm not suggesting that everybody getting divorced should have court-appointed lawyers, but there needs to be some way that we can even out that balance for folks. I think I mentioned in my answer that some of those really high priority, high risk situations, losing your home, losing your child, that perhaps we should consider more the availability of legal services on a more frequent basis. It all boils down to resources, but that's been a concern of mine.
Thank you. And I noted that you did talk about those high-profile cases where one has a lot to lose. Have you considered adopting something along the lines of a civil Gideon standard, that when the rights are that profound, that perhaps representation should be required?
Yeah, so I have not considered that, but I appreciate the thought. And in fact, we'll be teaching this on Wednesday, the idea of Miranda rights, the idea that having a lawyer is such a profound right that law enforcement folks need to, in certain situations, let the defendant or the person being interrogated know about those rights. So yes, I think that that's probably someplace where you should start, is what is the right that's being implicated and how profound is it? Thank you.
And in the event that you or your students come up with an answer, if you could
Absolutely
report back to us.
Well, I'm always telling my students that, if you see a problem, become a legislator, right? Go make policy, solve it. I always tell them to do that. So I will continue to tell them to do that, and hopefully we'll send multiples of them here.
Thank you. I just have one more and I'll get right to you, Senator. And I wasn't going to let you off the hook on the criminal side. I started with the civil, but I did note.
You can let me off the hook.
Thank you. You mentioned that it's about time to seriously consider a public defender's office. What's led you to that viewpoint?
You saw that my background was in California and then Alaska. And so California had a public defender system. Alaska has a public defender system. And then we moved to Maine, and it was like, there's no public defender system here. And so it took a while to sort of figure out how defendants were represented, if indigent defendants were represented. And as I learned more about the system, and in fact, when I started with Baffiatas, Burns, and Kaminsky, I would be appointed to represent defendants. I would be a court-appointed defender. I did I did some juvenile defendants, so I would represent juveniles. I saw that it was working. It was working. You would have folks like me, sincere, really trying hard to represent the person the best as I could, getting paid minimally from the state, but appeared to be working. So I think that as population expands, as needs expand, as lawyers are leaving the field, it may not be working as well as it had been previously. But I understand the limitations to a public defender's office, just like there are limitations to the private court-appointed lawyers. So you all will hear evidence. You all will hear the best evidence about what works best, and trust that you will provide our indigent defendants with the best legal representation available.
Thank you very much, Judge. Senator Carney.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I interrupted your line of questioning. I want to take you back to some questions actually that my co-chair asked you about civil matters and the importance of legal representation. And I was wondering if you could speak with us a little bit about what you as a member of the judiciary would do to address that imbalance absent resources that would allow more civil defendants who couldn't afford lawyers to be represented.
There are certain workarounds that might be available to judges. I'm not going to be able to think of all of them right now, but one that I can think of right away would be where children are involved, appointing a guardian ad litem. So at least there's somebody there that can represent the best interests of the child. So that's one workaround that I can think of. The other is in divorces and parental rights matters, the court is able to order that one party pay the attorney's fees of another party. There's another workaround, if you will. So I think that being creative, you may be able to come up with some solutions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carney. Are there additional questions for the nominee from committee members? I am not seeing any, so thank you very much for your statement, for your
Thank you.
thoughtful responses to our questions.
Thank you very much.
I will now turn to statements from the floor. Chair will now take comments from persons attending this hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination. Anyone who has a written statement but who does not wish to speak should have submitted the statement to the committee clerk prior to today's hearing. All such statements contain the name and residence of the person who prepared the statement. A copy of each written statement presented to the committee at this hearing will be made available to the nominee upon her request before the committee votes, and the nominee will have an opportunity to respond to the written comment if she so chooses. Those who wish to speak during the proceedings should observe the following. Those who wish to speak on site in person should do so from the rostrum. Those who wish to speak via Zoom should have registered to testify online prior to the start of this hearing and will be called upon by the chair, at which time they will be promoted to panelist status in Zoom and can be seen and heard. When it is your turn to speak, please observe the following. State your name and place of residence before presenting your testimony. Only comments concerning the suitability of this particular nominee for this particular position will be considered in order. All other comments will be considered out of order. Those speaking should remain at the rostrum or available on Zoom in the event members of the committee have questions. After you are done speaking and there are no more questions from members of the committee, you may return to your seat or you will be returned to attendee status in Zoom as applies. I will first turn to members in the audience and ask of those who wish to speak, if you could raise your hand. Judge Mitchell, you seem anxious to get up, so welcome.
Always anxious to speak for Judge Faircloth. Good afternoon, Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, distinguished members of the Judiciary Committee, and Judge Faircloth. It is so refreshing to have sat through her testimony. And I think you can see what those of us who've sat on the probate judge bench with her with numerous meetings have learned. She is a teacher at heart, whether it be the law or the human condition or how we can make things better. But I must admit, I learned even more things about this extraordinary woman. I'm not going to read everything that I've written for you. When you're writing a judicial opinion, you have findings of fact and conclusions of law. I suggest that we've found many facts already through her resume. We've found that she is eminently qualified. She is articulate. She is experienced. And in fact, I might call her a Renaissance woman with all the things that she brings to the table today for your consideration. So, and there's one other fact that you might not know, and I bring to you because I've had the pleasure of serving as a fellow probate judge with her. We all reach out to one another for advice, for experience. What would you do with? And Amy Faircloth, always the teacher, does her homework, refers to citations, refers to precedent, and she teaches us every single day. And she even taught a course that qualified for a continuing legal education credit for the other judges of probate. That's the quality of her teaching level. She very quickly rose to the top, if you will, of the leaders in our assembly. As we exchanged ideas, she never, ever felt embarrassed to ask a question. No question was too simple or unnecessary. She asked it. And boy, did she make everybody think about where we were, what the law meant, and what we should be doing about, what should be concerned about. Even made her secretary, and you know what that's like to be made secretary of any organization that's losing it. She took it on. She did not complain. Her intellectual curiosity is boundless. I really struggle to keep up with all the questions that she asked, but that is a trait that you would want from any judge. So the conclusion of law is that she represents all the best aspects of what we want and what we're accustomed to in Maine and the judges that we've selected. I read a few bar association journals about what is an ideal judge. She has these qualities, and they define judicial temperament. Again, a quality that can't always write on paper, but however, it's the ability to apply the law to the facts, but also to know how that decision affects the person before you as you apply those laws to the fact. She has to listen to all sides, which she does, but then have the courage to make the decisions, which may not always be popular, but are best in the best interest of the citizens, and follow the law which the policymakers have issued. And she does have that courage. And what I also believe that she will do, and some of your questions implied that that too is an important goal, she will work with her colleagues to make the system better. She is not satisfied with the current situation. She makes it better. She didn't mention to you, one of the things that she does a lot in her probate court is she uses mediators, which helps people resolve problems on the courthouse bench, even without a benefit of law. So she is all of those things. And I, without hesitation, am so pleased to endorse this nomination to the bench, though I think Penobscot County is going to have some pretty big shoes to fill in that probate role for however long it lasts. So I appreciate your time. And again, she is an extraordinarily good choice. Thank you, Governor's staff.
Thank you, Judge Mitchell, for taking the time to be with us today. It's
Thank you.
always nice to see you before the committee.
Thank you.
Are there questions from committee members for Judge Mitchell?
I keep forgetting about that.
I am not seeing
Thank
any.
you.
Thank you very much. Judge Crockett?
It's always a tough act to follow. Oh, sorry. Representative or Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Jared Crockett. I'm of Bethel. Let me clarify now, that's Bethel, Maine. And despite the Alaska connection, I spent 3 years there, but no connection. So here we go. Like so many other who work in these hollowed halls, I too enjoy history. And today we get a chance to be part of that because Judge Faircloth is only the second probate judge in 50 years to go to the district court. The last one was quickly elevated to the Superior Court after their service because a lot of the traits that work on the probate court, working with pro se litigants, understanding various issues, they apply. And so I fully expect Judge Faircloth to fall into that category. Usually when evaluating anybody, whether it's a combat leader in the military, an officer, or a business executive or a judge, there are two factors that are necessary: aptitude and attitude. Aptitude is the ability, obviously, to learn. It's imperative for a judge to have a strong legal foundation and a sound legal mind to even be considered. However, it is vital for the person to, well, vital for anybody considering the job, to realize that no lawyer is a master of every area in which that district court
has jurisdiction. It's impossible. And if any lawyer were to tell you they were master of every area of, you probably wouldn't want them as a judge, because you have to have anybody who's talented has certain areas. But when they become a district court judge, they have to pick up those new areas. It's no surprise. And that's where the aptitude part comes in. Here, you have the unique opportunity where you have a nominee who's already been through that before. Because when you become a probate judge, you may have a particular area, but you may not be an expert in complex trust litigation. You may not be an expert in adult guardianships or family law. There's various complex property issues. So you've already had a nominee who's went through it. It was successful. So you've already got a proven track record. The other piece is you have a Judge Faircloth has come to the bench with over 30 years of legal experience prior to becoming a county judge. From the start, her aptitude to quickly digest cases and apply areas of law was evident to the attorneys as well as the various parties appearing in her court. And while her aptitude is clearly evident, it's also her attitude that truly sets her apart. That's the second part of the evaluation. The judicial temperament. To date, all accounts, she's excellent. She has a proven track record. And again, a big benefit to the district court there. Now, one of the greatest attributes of a probate judge, I feel, having been in the district superior and probate courts, and now having sat on the bench of the probate court, is the pro se litigants. You talked about civil suits earlier. You have cases where you could have hundreds of thousands, sometimes even $1 million estate, and two pro se individuals arguing points of law. Okay, not understanding exactly what they're arguing, and not necessarily the rules of evidence sort of get interesting, but you're trying to cipher it out. Probate courts have to do that routinely. They're unseen to the bar, but to be able to do that, that translates into a good district court judge. Because if you ever had a landlord case or an FED with a pro se litigant on the other side, you understand the complexity of that and how a district court judge has to maintain that demeanor, the respect, the decorum, so forth, but still make sure the procedure isn't ignored. Here, you have a nominee who has that background. But on a personal note, I first encountered Amy on a small case over a decade ago, which she was not happy with me on. But her wit and keen grasp of the issues took the day, and I've enjoyed working with her ever since. When she became a probate judge, she has definitely become a key person in our assembly. And it's hard because we each are working I'm sure people who served on that commission this summer understand, these counties are working in silos. So the probate judge's ability to reach out to other counties is necessary. And right from the beginning, I think it's fair to say we've all benefited a great deal by her input and collaboration. And again, all indicators should be an excellent district court judge. So in conclusion, and I know brevity is next to godliness, so I will get this done quickly, is a rare occurrence when the Judiciary Committee has the opportunity to vote to confirm someone to the state courts for the first time, who has presided over hundreds of hearings in cases ranging from multi-million-dollar estates, termination of parental rights to both adult and minor guardianships. Judge Faircroft's proven track record on the bench, coupled with her legal expertise, makes her an excellent choice for the district court. I humbly urge this committee to support her nomination, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Judge Crockett. Nice to see you before the committee again. Nice to see you in person.
And I want to note that I did pay tribute as required. So if Soupy says anything.
Just in the event committee members have questions. Are there any questions for Judge Crockett from committee members? I am not seeing any. Thank you very much for your time and being with us this afternoon. Come ahead. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, and members of the committee. My name is Wayne Doan, and I'm an attorney in Bangor and have been for about 33 years now. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk to all of you in support of the governor's nomination of Judge Faircloth to be a district court judge. I've had a district court practice now for just about all of my career, all of my 33 years. I also practice in probate court, and I'll talk about that in a second because that's one way that I've encountered Judge Faircloth. And I also practice in the tribal court as well. I do family law, but the primary focus of my practice is child protection. both as a parent's attorney and as a guardian ad litem. And it probably will come as no surprise to anyone that for those of us in the legal profession, judicial nominations are a really, really big deal. The word spreads like wildfire. Somebody sees it on a news feed, and then we all start talking about it because it really is such a significant event for us. And the Child Protection Bar in particular is a very, very closely knit bar. And we spend a lot of time together. So we're huddled around our sort of virtual water cooler talking about these things. And by that, I mean that awkward moment when you're waiting for the Zoom hearing to start, waiting for the judge to get there. We're all kind of awkwardly looking at each other. Those are our opportunities to talk. But I'm not just speaking for myself today. I can tell you that I've had an opportunity to talk with a number of my colleagues about this nomination. And I can tell you, not once did I hear any discouraging words about this. And the comment that I heard most frequently, almost in these words most of the time, was, yeah, should be great. Yeah, should be great. And I certainly agree with that. So the question then becomes, what is it about her? Maybe you've heard a lot of it today already. But what is it about Judge Faircloth that makes her the right choice, that makes this a great choice? And I think it starts with her considerable experience as a practitioner, her trial experience as one of the founding partners in one of the most respected firms in Bangor. And believe me, lawyers like to try cases in front of judges who have trial experience. In addition to that, and we've heard a little bit today about her experience as a guardian ad litem, and I've had that experience with her on a case. And one case in particular that I remember just a few years ago was a case in tribal court. And Judge Faircloth was the guardian ad litem for the two children in that case, a very, very difficult, complicated, messy, and difficult situation. Judge Faircloth was a very strong and very effective advocate for those children. I represented the mom in that case. And her work in that case, her tireless work in that case, was extremely helpful in bringing that case to the appropriate resolution. I think having a district court judge, I know there was a question about that earlier, but having a district court judge, I think, that has had the experience of advocating for children in court and being a guardian ad litem, I think that's very, very important. We've also heard about her work with Hopson University. She's a respected professor there. One of the things that I will really miss is being able to go to Judge Faircloth's classes and talk to her class. She was kind enough to invite me several times over the past few years to talk to her class. And we just did it actually just a few weeks ago. And it was always so much fun to do that, to see her interact with her class, to see her teaching her class. And as Judge Mitchell mentioned, she is a teacher through and through. Her class clearly enjoyed being with her, as she clearly enjoyed teaching them. I was always impressed when I went there to talk to her classes at how incredibly prepared they were to talk to me. They all had their lists of questions ready to go, and Judge Faircloth was running the show and had her list of questions, so there were no gaps in the conversation. And I'm sure that they're going to miss her there, but Hopson University's loss will certainly be the court's gain. But I think the aspect of Judge Faircloth's career that I'd like to focus on the most in the few minutes that I have with you today is her work as a probate court judge. And we've heard some things about that today, because I think maybe the best predictor of what kind of a district court judge she will be is to look at what kind of a probate court judge she has already been. And I've practiced in front of Judge Faircloth in many cases in probate court, including twice just last week. Although I did settle both of those cases, so no heavy lifting for her that day, but I've been in front of her many times. I watched her very skillfully and carefully guide the court through the challenges of COVID. And that really did wreak havoc with our courts, leading into the kind of brave new world of video hearings, which nobody likes, by the way. I've read a number, not that we can do anything, but her decisions are very thoughtful, carefully written, and well-reasoned. And I say that even when they don't say exactly what I was kind of hoping that they would say. I've seen Judge Faircloth very calmly, and she does not ruffle, very calmly handle a number of difficult emotional situations in court, and handle them all very, very well. And yes, on occasion, as hard as it is to believe, sometimes difficult attorneys. I mean, not me personally, but I have seen other lawyers, they happen to be on the same case as me, right, Don? Being difficult. Although, in all fairness, and I did get permission to tell this story, in all fairness, there was one time that I was testifying in Judge Faircloth's court. I was the guardian ad litem in the case. And I got into it with the lawyer who was asking me questions, more than I should have. And I knew in the moment that I was going to get in trouble, but I just couldn't stop. So then I got a look from Judge Faircloth that I think probably her sons have seen before. And let me just say that she addressed that problem, meaning my behavior, that problem very efficiently and very quickly. So she runs her courtroom with a very fair hand and a predictable hand. And the predictability is a big deal for those of us who practice. And she has a thorough understanding of the rules of evidence. And believe me, that is important to lawyers. And I think that comes from her vast experiences as a trial lawyer. I think that's where it comes from. It comes from seeing those issues come up in the cases that you're handling. And I think that's where it comes from, but it's incredibly helpful. But there was a question earlier about folks who don't have lawyers. And I want to talk about that for a little. I want to talk about what I've seen from her in terms of her interaction with folks who don't have lawyers. I've seen her interact with pro se litigants many, many times, and she is unfailingly kind, patient, and understanding in her interactions with them. And she never forgets, and this is clear, she never forgets that these are folks who are in a very difficult emotional situation. Maybe they've never been to court before. They're way out of their comfort zone. They don't know where to sit. They don't know where to stand. They don't know when to talk. And it's a really, really hard process for them. And I think the ability and the willingness of a judge to make these folks feel like they have every right to be in that courtroom, they have every right to be heard, and what they say is important. And I think that's an essential skill set for a judge, because we do see a lot of folks in district court who don't have attorneys. And I'm speaking especially of protection from abuse days, because that system is designed to be user-friendly, and we don't see a lot of lawyers in that process. And I've watched judges handle that, and that can clearly be a very, very challenging situation. They're all, the plaintiff and defendant, all of them in the same room. I've heard them start going at each other in the courtroom. So that ability to relate and to talk to folks like that is an incredibly important thing for a judge. And the other thing is that when people leave a courtroom and they feel like they've been treated with respect, and that the person sitting on the bench really cares about doing the right thing, and that's always true with Judge Faircloth, that can only increase trust and confidence in our court process, and we all benefit from that. It can also help people accept decisions that are not exactly what they were hoping to get. If you feel like the process has been fair, even if the decision isn't what you wanted, at least you feel like you've been heard. They can accept it, they can move on. Otherwise, they never accept it and they never move on. And I think that's particularly true in the area that's my primary practice focus, and that's child protection. There's a lot of interaction in child protection cases between the judge and the parent, more than I think a lot of people realize if you don't do that work every day. Because literally, every time we go to court, the judge and the parent have a pretty extensive conversation about a variety of things. I saw it this morning. I was in Belfast this morning with Judge Walker, and he had an extensive conversation with my client this morning. When parents are waiving their right to have a hearing, or they're agreeing to a particular order in the case, there's a colloquy between the court and the parent about, have you been able to reach your attorney? Has your attorney answered all of your questions? They want to be sure that they know what they're doing and that they're making an informed decision. And I think the ability of a judge to make these folks feel like they're talking to them as opposed to down to them is pretty significant. And Judge Faircloth certainly has that skill. Not only that, but kids in these child protection cases also occasionally talk to the judge, and she would be great at that. I've seen her talk to kids, and she would be wonderful at that. So that's about all I have for you. I'm going to miss practicing in front of her in the probate court, but I'm going to look forward, hopefully, to seeing her in the district court. And I would suggest to all of you that the governor simply could not have provided you with a more qualified or deserving nominee.
Thank you very much, Attorney Doan. We appreciate you sharing your professional experiences with the nominee. Just before you leave, are there any questions from committee members for Wayne Doan? I am not seeing any. Again, thank you very much for your time and insight. Are there other persons in the room today who wish to testify? Is it Dawn Pelletier?
Yes.
Okay, welcome to the Judiciary Committee.
Thank you. My name is Dawn Pelletier. I reside in Bangor, Maine. And so Senator Carney, Representative Harnett, members of the Judiciary Committee, I have had the privilege of being partner of Amy Faircloth for almost 25 years. I kind of feel like everything's been said, but not everybody has said it. So I'm going to go ahead with my prepared remarks nonetheless. And I'm going to start by saying that I recently went to Disney with my 10-year-old niece. Now, I know you didn't expect me to start like that, but it got me thinking about Amy's superpowers. The ones that will make you very proud to confirm her nomination, especially at this time with the problems caused by the pandemic. 3 of Amy's superpowers are linked together. Number 1, Amy has the ability to see the forest through the trees. Number 2, she is very efficient in analyzing that. And number 3, she's decisive. So when I struggled with complicated cases, I'd ask for Amy's help. And we'd sit down, she'd listen attentively, and I would give her the facts. In complicated cases, especially family cases, there are many facts. One can get lost in facts. And I would ask her opinion on how to solve these issues. She thoughtfully thought about what was not important, disregard those. She focused on the important facts, applied the law, and provided alternate solutions. This is very helpful to me. It's always great to be able to talk to somebody as gifted as she is. So when you've got what we hear, about 80% of cases that are in the district court involve people who are either unrepresented on one side or both sides being unrepresented. It's very daunting for a judge to try to make sense of all these facts and then apply them to the law. I also read in the Press Herald that there are there's a $6,000 backlog of divorce cases. The district court needs judges with Amy's superpowers. The fourth and fifth superpowers are also connected: her humanity and her humility. This I'll just never forget about our relationship. When she had complicated cases, she'd come to me. And if not all the time, most of the time, she'd always begin by saying, and you know, Dawn, I really like my client. So it got to be a joke, you know. When she'd do it, I'd say, okay, let's get this over with. I know you really like your client. But over time, I realized that what she really meant is that she really cares for her client. And Amy cares about people. She understands that not everyone has had the gifts that she's had, the opportunities that she's had, the parents that she's had. She understands that many people that come before her are in pain. And she understands that because she's had her share of her own pain. And she certainly helped me, as well as other members of her staff, through their own personal pain. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, people won't remember what you say, but they will remember how they made you feel. Amy will make people feel respected and heard. And then there's her humility. As we all know, it's very easy to be humble when you have a lot to be humble about. But that's not Amy. She's had an exemplary legal career, working hard on behalf of her clients. And in her spare time, she raised her kids. She wrote a book with her sister. She learned and taught yoga. In her later chapter of her career, she's now a professor and a judge, an elected judge. You know, I have a lot of respect for all of you who put yourself out, right, to be examined. I just think that's remarkable. She's a proud mother, a loving sister, and a devoted daughter. But if you ask her, what's one of the hardest things that you ever had to do? She would say, she wouldn't even hesitate. She would say this, what she did today, a few minutes ago. She doesn't like talking about herself. She's uncomfortable talking about herself. That's what you want in a judge. Someone who doesn't take herself too seriously. And when the citizens of Maine appear before her, it's not going to be about her. She will give all her attention and her energy to the people in front of her. Finally, I want to talk about her courage. She's tough. She's very, very tough. I've heard her tirelessly advocate for her family and for her clients, while up against highly regarded lawyers who any lawyer on the other side would be intimidated. And she was, but that didn't stop her. She held her own. It takes courage to make decisions, have the sort of confidence and courage to make decisions about people. These decisions are going to affect their lives. It takes courage to take control of the courtroom and to hold people accountable. Amy is brave. She's tough. I first appeared before this committee 31 years ago when I was the nominee. And I'll be, not 31 years ago, when I was 31 years old, and I'll be 66 in a couple of years. Over those 35 years, it's hard to believe, right? Just, where did it go? I've spoken on behalf of many, many nominees. And this is likely the last time that I'm going to do it. So I do it, cherishing the privilege that I've had to appear before this committee. But I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you folks for your service to the citizens of Maine and to our democracy, which we cannot take for granted. This committee has always confirmed the nominees that I've spoken for. So please don't ruin my record. And I heartily support Judge Faircloth's nomination for the district court. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. You put a lot of pressure on us there at the end. Are there questions from committee members for Dawn Pelletier? I am not seeing any. Thank you again very much for your time and testimony. Is there anyone else in the committee room who wishes to offer a statement regarding the nominee? You're certain she does not want to? Okay. I would now ask anyone in the attendee space, if you wish to testify regarding this nominee, to please raise your electronic hand so that Committee Clerk Supi Panett can move you over. I do know that we had one person registered to testify, Susan Fonce. Susan, as soon as you're ready, please activate your video. It's nice to see you again. Please begin your testimony as soon as you're comfortable.
Members of the Judiciary Committee, thank you for having me again. My name is Susan Fonce, and I am president of the Maine Trial Lawyers Association. I'm here today testifying on their behalf. I am a resident of North Yarmouth, Maine. For this particular candidate, we did have a limited number of respondents, but for those who did respond, we received an overall positive nomination for this candidate. Our members described Judge Faircloth as performing admirably well in the probate court. And our members also noted that Judge Faircloth was beyond courteous to pro se litigants. In evaluating her nomination, our leadership noted almost 34 years of experience in civil litigation and child support enforcement. We believe this experience will serve her well in the district court. We also noted her efforts to keep dockets up to date in the probate court, despite the difficulties presented during the pandemic. This is a mindset that's necessary to keep justice accessible during these difficult times. Based on her high evaluations and her extensive legal experience, the Maine Trial Lawyers Association is proud to endorse Judge Amy Faircloth to the Maine District Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much for offering your testimony on behalf of the Maine Trial Lawyers Association. This afternoon, are there any questions from committee members for Susan Fonce? And I am not seeing any. Again, thank you very much for your time and testimony. I will do one more sweep of the attendee room and the room that we're in. Are there any persons who wish to be heard in any capacity regarding this nominee? Seeing none, I will move on to the next phase of our hearing. All public comments having been taken, the committee will now proceed as follows. We will review any additional written comments on the nomination that have been received by the committee. We will vote on the nomination and notify the President of the Senate pursuant to Title III MRSA, Section 157, and the joint rules. Vote must be taken within 40 days of the date of the governor's written notice, and we are within that time frame. The hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary for the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for appointment as a district court judge is closed. We will proceed to taking the vote. In accordance with the law, the committee may not take the vote on this nomination sooner than 15 minutes after the close of the public hearing, unless all committee members who are present agree. At this time, therefore, I ask whether any member present objects to proceeding to taking the vote immediately. If so, please raise your hand or your electronic hand. I am seeing no objection. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary recommend to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for appointment as a district court judge be confirmed. In accordance with 3 MRSA, Chapter 6, Section 157, and the joint rules of the 130th Legislature, the vote will be taken by the yeas and nays. A vote of yes will be in favor of recommending confirmation. A vote of no will be against the motion to recommend confirmation. Is the committee ready for the vote? Committee clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Galgay-Reckett.
Yes.
Representative Galgay-Reckett votes yes. Representative Newell.
Yes.
Representative Newell votes yes. Representative Evangelos.
Yes.
Representative Evangelos votes yes. Representative Poirier.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry. Representative Poirier votes yes. Senator Kime. Senator Sanborn. Senator Carney.
Yes.
Senator Carney votes yes. Representative Harnett.
Yes.
Representative Harnett votes yes. Representative Babbage.
Yes.
Representative Babbage votes yes. Representative Thorne.
Yay.
Representative Thorne votes yes. Representative Sheehan. Representative Moriarty.
Yes.
Representative Moriarty votes yes. Representative Hagan. Representative Libby. I will recall the absentees. Senator Kime. Senator Kime is absent. Senator Sanborn. Senator Sanborn is absent. Representative Sheehan. Representative Sheehan is absent. Representative Hagan. Representative Hagan is absent. Representative Libby. Representative Libby is absent.
Thank you, Clerk Panett. 9 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and 0 in the negative, it is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Judiciary that the nomination of the Honorable Amy L. Faircloth of Bangor for appointment as a district court judge be confirmed. Congratulations very much on this honor. Before we come to congratulate you in person, please accept a round of virtual and live applause for your accomplishment. It has been a joy to sit through these nominations today. Thank you for all committee members and everyone involved in this process, and congratulations.